Hi guys, this is Swagatika. I am a software engineer and working in a MNC company as a ETL tester. So last 10 years I am working in ETL testing, this technology. So I am well aware of this technology. As we all know that ETL technology is trend in market and we usually get more openings in this ETL testing in MNC companies and also product based companies. So I thought to share some information and some real time scenarios that can help you people to click the interview. So today I'm going to share some processes of ETL testing, the end to end flow, and as well as some real time scenarios that frequently are asked in the interview so that it will be helpful to click the interview. So let's start, guys. I would like to say what is ETL. So ETL, which stands for extract, transform and load. So it is a data integration process that combines data from multiple data sources into a single and consistent data store. So that means extract data from legacy systems and cleanse the data to improve data quality and establish consistency, and then load data into a target system. So you can refer the below diagram where I have mentioned like the target. So source system will be the Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata or flat file. So please remember source system would maybe flat files, maybe Excel files, maybe source system will be database. So different source system, it will extract data and then import into the staging area. So what is staging area? Staging area, it is an intermediate storage area between source and target system. So before it will load into the data warehouse, I mean the target system, it will cleanse the data and will apply some transformation logic to filter out the important data and to load into the target system. So this is the whole ETL process. So it will extract data from the source system, import data into the staging area, then it will apply some transformation logic and load it into the target system. All the filtered data. Always target system will having the filtered data, means important data, the cooked data. So that we have to remember. So this is the whole ETL process. So here I am going to discuss how to process data from source system to target through ETL job. So ETL job is basically the workflow which can be triggered to initial ETL process. That means when we trigger the ETL job, then only it will extract data from the source system and load into the target system. So we need to trigger ETL job to extract data and load into the target system. So how we will trigger the job? Through the ETL tool. So different companies or project, they are using different ETL tools. It's depend upon the company, it's depend upon the project. So there will be more so many ETL tools like Informatica, Abenishu, Autosys. So that depend upon the company and project to use the ETL tool. And this tool will help us to trigger the job. And once we will trigger the job, the data will be extract from the source system and load into the target system. So what is ETL job? Job is nothing but the workflow. What is workflow? That is the combination of multiple sessions. So that means the entire flow, like extract data from source system to transform and load it into the target system. The entire flow will be designed in a single job. So when we run the ETL job, means the entire process will run. If the entire process is completed successfully, then the data will be loaded in the target system. There are two ways to run an ETL job. One is manually triggered, another one is scheduled job. So manually trigger, it happened on demand, on needed. So in test environment, we can manually run the job when it requires. I mean, during our validation, we need to load the data. So we will run the job and check the entire workflow would be completed so that we can start our validation. So that means when it requires, we will manually go to the tool and will run the job, and then we will monitor the job. Once the job is completed, means the entire flow is completed, then we will go to the target system to validate the target data. So basically manually trigger requires in testing environment and the scheduled run requires in production environment. So in production, there will be a setup to trigger event in a scheduled time. So there will be a particular time they scheduled the job to auto run. If job will fail, we will get a file with the error message. Like according to that error message, we can rectify that source system and we can do the fix, and then we will manually run it so that it will again run successfully. So this is the done by the production system, guys, not for QA. So only monitoring requires in production environment because job will auto run in scheduled time. So by the production support team. So there is no manual trigger. So manual trigger requires in QA environment only, not for the production. I'm going to discuss what are the main scenarios that we need to validate in ETL. So here I mentioned the first point like structure validation. So what is structure validation? Here we can validate the structure of source and target system. If the source is a file, so we can validate the field names and the types. And if the source is the table, so we can validate the column names and the data types. Same in target system too. So we can use the SQL query like describe table name if it is a table. So it will provide the whole column names with the corresponding data type. So that details we can match with the mapping document. So whether it will be matching with the mapping document, whether the table is created as per the mapping document as per the requirement. So here mapping document plays the main role in ETL testing. It provides the mapping of the source system fields to the fields of a target system and also column names, data type, etc. So as per the mapping document, that source system and the target system should be created. So it should match with the mapping document. So that will be our first validation. So here the second point is like validate the constraint. So example, validating the constraints and ensuring that they are applied on expected tables. That means if some columns is applied with primary key is a constant, so that column should have unique record in the target system. So because if applied at the primary key, so primary key should have the unique records. So that will be considered as the uniquely identification of that table. So that is called constraint validation. So third point like null validation. Null validation means we can verify the null values in some mandatory fields. If some fields are mentioned in mapping document as the mandatory fields or the not null field, so that field should not have any null value in the target system. That's called the null validation. So here the fourth scenario like duplicate validation. So what is duplicate validation? Validating the duplicate values in the target system. So source system may have the duplicate records because source system contains the raw data, because those data is coming from the legacy system. So it might be having the duplicates records, but in the target table or target system, it only have the quality data and filter data. So it will be loaded only the quality filter imported data to the target system. So it should not have any duplicate records. So source count and target count never matches because only the filter data is loaded into the target system. So how to check duplicate records in target system? Suppose there is a table named like customer and the customer ID is the unique key. So we can write the SQL statement like here I have mentioned select count customer ID and we will filter that column also customer ID from the customer table. Group by customer ID having count customer ID greater than 1. So it will face all the data, means all the records which is having more than one count. That means the duplicate records. So this way we can find out the duplicate records. And one simple way I have mentioned also, we can get the distinct count of the customer table and we can get the count of the customer. So if these two count mismatches, distinct count and the simple count if mismatches, that means there will be the duplicate records. So like this we can validate the duplicate records in a target system. So here the last point I have mentioned like data validation check. So the above scenarios like duplicate check, null check, those are also coming under the data validation check. But here why I mentioned separately data validation check, like only the duplicate validation, only the null validation, only the constant validation, those are not that much important in the data validation. The data validation also coming under the logic validation. So logic validation in the sense that logic will be applied correctly in the source data during the transformation. That means that logic will be matched with the mapping document. Whatever the logic mentioned in the mapping document, that should be applied properly in the source system during filter the data and loaded into the target system. So this is the important data validation in the ETL testing, that data validation. So there will be more information about data validation, but that I will provide in my next video. So but before that, I want to show you the mapping document, because as I said before, like mapping document plays the main role in ETL testing. So which provide the source system fields detail and the target system fields detail, the source column maps to target columns, all the details should be there in the mapping document. So the data validation is happened based on the mapping document. That's why mapping document is the important part in ETL testing. So I am going to show you the mapping document. One example of mapping document. So here you can see the mapping document. So it provides the source system details and the target system details, source column details and the target column details. So the source column to target column mapping details and the logics also. So during our data validation, we always refer the mapping document, which helps us to prepare that logic, to prepare the SQL statement during our validation. So that data will be filtered from the source system and loaded into the target system according to the mapping document, according to the mapping logic. That's the mapping document. So this is the important part in the ETL test. So that's all guys. I hope the information provided by me and the presentation helps you to understand the ETL processes. And I will continue the same in my next video series. And I will try to provide more real-time scenarios and the more information about the ETL processes. And that can help you guys to click the ETL interview. Please subscribe my channel and click the bell button. Thank you. See you till then. Bye bye.